Hello, everybody. This is Lee at Fresh Astrology. How are you? So we're going to look at Jupiter going into Capricorn after it spent a year in Sagittarius. And we'll go through each of the signs and see just a little bit about what that might mean for you. So this is your opportunity. I'm doing this live. So it's your opportunity to ask me any questions you might have about this transit. So I'm just going to start until I see questions. Let's go to the chart. So universally, what it means for everyone, and this kind of applies to Aries too. So it's kind of the Aries viewpoint, but also the universal, what does it mean for all? Jupiter is going over the midheaven of the kind of common chart, and for Aries as well. So in the beginning of December, December 2nd and 3rd, Jupiter will be at 0 degrees Capricorn, and just right on the midheaven of the chart. What that means, the midheaven is the top of the chart. It's the most public part of the chart. And it's all things public. It's things that people can publicly see about you. It would be like, getting a new title, like a promotion at work with a new title. It would be changing jobs or graduating school and then becoming whatever it is you want to become. Like you graduate med school, you suddenly have MD tacked onto your name and you're a doctor suddenly. Maybe not suddenly. There's a lot more to becoming a doctor, but you know what I mean. Graduating law school, and then once you pass your bar, then you've got the JD tacked onto your name, and you can practice in a certain state. It's these things that are very public that people can look up publicly, like maybe your phone number. In the old days, people could look up your phone number. Maybe not as easily now, but it's still very possible for people to look up an amazing amount of information about you publicly. So your address, your phone number, where you work, your marital status, what gender you are is usually public. I know there's a continuum here, and there are different ways of looking at gender, but generally speaking, your gender is public, and loosely speaking, how old you are is relatively public. So this is how anybody could look at you if they were focused on you and kind of gather information on you. They would see maybe how tall you were, what color your hair is at the moment, things like that, and other details about your life. So it's where you meet the public. And so often this happens in career. It's where you meet the public through what you do in the world. It's how you create action in the world. So again, so I'm talking to Aries here and kind of the overview for Jupiter moving across the midheaven. Where it's had this Sagittarius energy for about a year. And Sagittarius energy is very different in character to that of Capricorn, where Jupiter will be going in early December 2019 and staying for about a year. Sagittarius is a fire sign. Just to overview, like some people know this, some people don't. Sagittarius is a fire sign. Capricorn is an earth sign. And so right there, you've got a difference between the quality and character of fire versus the quality and character of earth. So that alone, fire is more active and outward. Capricorn, for an earth sign, I would say is one of the more active of the earth signs. It has more action implied. And, you just got the metaphor, the mountain goat even, and the idea of the mountain goat going up a mountain. it has more implied action than, say, Taurus, where really we can just picture, I mean, the bull sometimes can be roused to move quickly, but usually they're just kind of stolidly standing there, but solid. Capricorn is more of a mover. So in that way, it's not too dissimilar from a fire sign from Sagittarius. But Sagittarius wants to learn and move forward and adventure into life, and kind of a questing sort of way. It wants to expand its knowledge. It wants to gain experience. It kind of learns experientially. It's a learning sign, but it wants to learn, by doing and by moving around. Sagittarius does have a goal. If you think of the archer, the metaphor of the archer does usually have a target, a bullseye it wants to hit. It has some goal with the idea of pulling back, a bow and arrow and releasing the arrow. It has a target, kind of like the mountain goat has a goal by climbing the mountain. So there again, they share a little bit of quality there. But Sagittarius has also with it this sort of more upbeat, lighter energy, especially with Jupiter in Sagittarius. It's this lighter feeling energy, almost to the point where it's almost imperceptible. I know a lot of people this year, a lot of good things have happened to people, but it's like it crept up on them. And it's not like Sagittarius is a sneaky sign. It's not like Jupiter is sneaky. It's not. They're both kind of big and bold in a lot of ways. But when they're together, it's such a light, seamless energy. It's almost like people didn't even understand what was happening to them when good things were happening. Again, it was almost imperceptible the way it was working in people's lives, even though now I know a lot of people can see, oh yeah, these great things were happening and good things were happening. It kind of crept in quietly, which is counterintuitive when you think of a big, bold fire sign like Sagittarius and Jupiter, this big, expansive presence. You would think it would be this big and bold energy throughout the year, really announcing itself. But I found for many people, it kind of, I keep thinking of lines from movies and books today. I was just doing recordings for my website membership lounge where people can join and they get their forecasts early, and they get the opportunity for a free reading if they're drawn. Each month I'll draw a name and do a free reading. And so I was just doing a forecast for this week. And for some reason, I'm just thinking of all these phrases, but there's a phrase from a book. It's like the fog crept in on cat feet or pig's feet. I can't remember if it's pigs or cats, but I keep picturing maybe one of you guys, if you're literary, it's like the fog crept in on little cat's feet or little pig's feet, something like that. But that's how I'm kind of picturing Sagittarius, including the humor, because you just wouldn't think Sagittarius would be dressed up and hidden, or Jupiter for that matter. You wouldn't, it's very counterintuitive, but I'm seeing around me and the people I know, the stories I know, and in my own life, how it was a subtle energy that kind of slipped in, but yet did a lot of good. So I'm wondering how you've experienced it. Let's see if anybody's here and making comments. Not yet. Okay. Although I see people are here, feel free to comment. Does anybody know the reference, the literary reference I'm trying to reach for? Oh, hi. Yes, Yasmin. Yeah, if anybody can look up that reference, it would be good just to have the actual quote. I don't want to take time to look it up now. Oh, hi, Yasmin. So you just joined. Well, welcome. So we're talking about Jupiter leaving Sagittarius. Hi, Cece. Hi from France. Good to see you. And Deborah. Can I say again? Oh, okay. So I was saying, I was trying to, what I've been doing over the past few minutes is talking about how Sagittarius is different from Capricorn, but then there's a little bit of overlap. And with all the signs that are next to each other, there's a weird counterintuitive overlap between each sign, even though the energy shift is palpable. So you go from Virgo to Libra, palpable, from Leo to Virgo, palpable difference. But yet at the same time, the signs share some interesting qualities at certain points. And so I'm talking about the point between Sagittarius and Capricorn and what that shift is. And I was saying that, and I don't know what the experience for you. Hi, Patricia. Hi, R. Carter. What I was saying is, and you guys can confirm or deny if this was true for you, that over the past year, even though Jupiter's this big, expressive, bold presence, even though Sagittarius is a fire sign and not a shy, retiring, quiet sign, and these two are together, that the benefits of Jupiter and Sagittarius and the way it expressed itself in the lives of the people I'm familiar with, some clients and friends and family. And for me, the change that Jupiter wrought through the last year was subtle and kind of crept in quietly rather than big, big, bold move. Now, at the end of the year, it feels like big, bold things have occurred. But as the energy was coming through Sagittarius and shifting the land and the landscape around us, it seemed to do it more quietly than one would expect. And so that reminded me of this literary, now I'm going to have to look it up while you guys are here, forgive me. And this kept happening to me in the membership lounge too. I was just doing a reading there and I kept thinking of literary references. I don't do that. So let's see. The fog crept in. At least I can give you the correct. On little cat feet. Yeah, it was what I thought. So the fog crept in on little cat feet. Maybe it's a poem. Oh, let's read it for a second. Maybe not the whole thing, but let's see. The fog comes in on little cat feet. It sits looking over harbor and city on silent haunches and then moves on. Okay, so that poem by Carl Sandburg, apparently, does not sound like, if I read you that poem and I'm like, well, what planet does that remind you of? Like, how many people would say Neptune, Or if I said, what sign does that remind you? How many people would say Pisces? Or I don't know, something else, something other than Sagittarius and Jupiter. But for some reason, the energy of the way Jupiter came through the year in this fiery sign felt more like this poem of the fog comes in on little cat feet. It sits looking over the harbor and city on silent haunches and then moves on. It felt more like that. And now that it's moving on, it feels like big things have occurred in my life and my clients' lives and my kids' lives and my friends' lives. I see its mark, but it did so, it crept in. So what are you guys? What is your experience? Let's see. Okay, so Sherry's confirming. Hi, Sherry. You're my literary person. You probably could have told me what it was. So Sherry says Sagittarius and Jupiter energy was subtle for me also. Yes. Let's see. Patricia says Sag Sun got much better job, gained weight, went on a few really nice vacations, fun year, overindulged a bit. So, Patricia, would you say, as a Sag Sun, would you say that as the year was going along, I mean, now you probably see like the good stuff, but as it was moving through, like in the summer, like last spring and summer, were you thinking, yeah, Sagittarius is, with Jupiter is awesome, or were you thinking, I wonder, what this holds for me, and still kind of wondering what was going on? let's see. I think it's OBI 2020. Agree. It also felt more like protection than expansion. Oh, that's a nice way of putting it. That's interesting. While it was happening, looking back now, it has shown itself as expansion. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm seeing. Where I'm just reading some of the comments. And somebody saying that your life, Mary saying your life's been so hard. Yeah. And that's just it. If your life is not all rainbows and roses all the time, and you've had any difficulty over the past year, I think then especially it may have been more challenging to see. And I see some of you are asking, like, you're giving me exact degrees of your, planets and stuff. That's harder to go into at this time. But if I saw one that was like a really easy grab that might enlighten other people, I might use it, but it's harder to go into those details here. But anyway, something about Sagittarius and Jupiter working together just seemed more subtle than you'd think. So as it moves into Capricorn, what will happen? A lot of people are saying that it's going to be quite dramatic. So I guess time will tell. Certainly going over the midheaven of kind of the common chart seems like it would be more dramatic, just that fact alone. Not so much going into Capricorn. But how might Jupiter interact with Capricorn energy? So Jupiter, we think of the word expansive. A lot of people think lucky. It definitely seems to expand whatever's already there. So if you've had hardship in your life, this may be a year in which 2019 may have been a year where things seemed to get worse, a lot worse before they got better for many of you. I do invite anybody whose life that feels hard and they're feeling kind of down and kind of like the glass is half empty. I invite you, though, to see where some good stuff did occur, because that alone, like just shifting your focus, is so healing for you to acknowledge where some good stuff happened. Something good happened for each person here. I know it. And I invite you to also look at that in addition to any hardship you still feel, which I respect that for some people, there's still some hardship. There's still things that feel challenging. That can be true for so many. But, as we look at the gifts of Jupiter and Jupiter going through Sagittarius, even though it crept in on little cat feet, can you see a little glimmer of where it gave you a gift? Can you see it? Are you able to see it? I just invite you to look at it that way, even if there's still some things you're concerned about or scared about. Try to see, because you can't really get to know Jupiter or even work with these planetary energies if you don't allow yourself to see what the energy is actually doing. Because sometimes when people say to me, well, nothing's happened, everything's the same, I respectfully disagree that everything's the same from last year to this year or from 5 years ago to now. I think it would be quite hard to have your life be exactly the same and to have no change whatsoever. So it's if you want to learn about astrology and how to use it to help yourself, I invite you to start looking for the distinct energies where you see distinct things happening and not just staying the same. It shakes you up. It shakes up your perception sometimes a little bit, but play the game, even if you're like, no, everything's the same. It all sucks. Lee's wrong. Fresh astrology sucks. You can think that, but I invite you to play a game at least. If we were talking about Pluto, we could talk, I'm not denying that there's darkness in the world. Pluto certainly can show us where there's fear and darkness to be uncovered and dealt with. There is that, but we're talking about Jupiter. So I invite you to see the good that has occurred and where you have grown. Now, Patricia points out that sometimes when Jupiter's in your sign, the waistline can grow a little. But there are other places you've grown. I know, Patricia, you've grown in other ways. So I invite you to look at that too. How else have you grown in addition to any waistline growth? Somebody has a moon in Capricorn. Yes, Yasmin. I would say with Jupiter going over your moon, several things can happen. You're finishing studying, which has been draining. Yeah, so Jupiter going over your moon can be very refreshing. At the same time, if you've been very tired, okay, so you've been studying. I'm going to use a story from my own experience and the experience of practically everyone I know personally, with kids or their own experience. When we've been, especially studying in school and everything's very intense, there's the thing that occurs, this phenomenon that occurs that you don't get sick while you're studying and at school because you've got exams and you've got to go to classes. And it's like you don't allow yourself to just relax and finally, rest. And then you come home for holidays from school, and that's when you get the flu. That's when you just totally fall apart in your basket case and you cry for days and days because it's just been so much. So Yasmin, but when you come home from the holidays and you cry for days or you get really sick, it's because you're safe. It's because it's all over. It's because you have support, even if it's just the universe or God who's got you. You only let go like that when something's got you and you're supported and you're okay. Zek is saying, you ignored my messages. I'm sorry. There are a lot floating through here right now. I can't see all of them. I'm certainly not ignoring anybody on purpose. I never do that. But anyway, Yasmin. So Zach is saying, kindly say something about my career. When will I get a job? Well, Zach, I'm so glad you're here. And I have known nothing about your sign. I don't know when you're going to get a job. This is really kind of a group experience we're doing here where I can talk more generally. If you want to hire me for a private reading, you could think of that. But this is more of a group experience, and I can't say when. Oh, so Capricorn. So when I get to Capricorn, then maybe I can answer something about that. So anyway, Yasmin, when Jupiter goes over your moon, and all of you could be thinking about this because Jupiter's going to touch something in your natal chart. It's not just Yasmin who has this. Everyone's got Jupiter touching some point on your natal chart. It's tickling something, just like when a fly hits a spider web and it ripples through the web, and then the spider is alerted to the fact that something's there. For a moment, think of your chart like a spider web. When Jupiter lands in it like a big fly, wherever, you're going to have the spider of Venus or the spider of the moon or the spider of the sun, or many ways in which Jupiter kind of trickles into your chart and spreads its energy. So it's not just Yasmin, but she has her moon in Capricorn and wonders if Jupiter will lighten her spirits. And I would say overall, yes. But the reason I told the story about crying and getting the flu is because sometimes you need to first do that and have a cathartic cleansing moment. And then you feel lighter. Like, don't most people, after you have a good cry, you feel a little lighter? Or if your mom makes you soup or something, you feel a little better. Can I speak to Jupiter opposing Saturn? Thank you. So that's a good general thing we can talk about for everybody. Let's get back to the chart. So I guess it's opposing Saturn in your chart, Miri, I'm guessing. We can talk about the interaction of Jupiter and Saturn, because this is going to happen for everybody as Jupiter moves closer this year to Saturn in Capricorn. Because, of course, Jupiter's entering a room, if you will, the Capricorn room, where there's a party already going on. We've got the South Node. As Jupiter enters, Venus is here, which bodes well. And Jupiter and Venus are very nice together. The South Node is always its interesting other story, but eventually Jupiter is going to meet up with Saturn and Pluto, and it's already close enough. It's not anywhere close to conjunction at this moment as it enters, but these planets, these outer planets that move more slowly, it's as though the energy from them ripples out more in the chart and covers more ground. And so I would say Jupiter's already interacting in a way that's palpable with Saturn and Pluto and what's going on in Capricorn, even though it's not anywhere close to being conjunct. You can already feel the focus on this area of your chart. Jupiter and Saturn, so even in opposition, Jupiter and Saturn have similar energies, oddly. And it's funny, I was just in the membership lounge because I just did that reading for this week. I was talking about Neptune and Saturn and how different they are. And here with Jupiter and Saturn, in many ways, they feel very different, especially in terms of lightness versus heaviness. To carry Saturn energy around with you or to go through a Saturn moment in your life feels heavier. Even if there's good stuff going on, it just feels more weighty and heavier and more serious. And to go through a Jupiter moment has this lighter quality, even if some bizarre stuff is happening or situations are unfolding rapidly that don't seem as positive. It has a lighter quality to it. It doesn't feel heavy. But at the same time, that being said, Jupiter and Saturn are very similar. They both have a lot to do with learning and education, the desire for learning, rewarding a person's willingness to learn. They share a lot of leadership quality, and I think they work well together. Now, in opposition, it depends on what's going on in your chart, and I would have to talk to you personally to really get at it. But in opposition, I would say that the general quality of it, Jupiter opposing Saturn, which is not going on for everybody, I'm just answering one person's question, would be that it would feel like part of your life, your world, wanted to fly higher, wanted to move forward, wanted to be freer, wanted to grow. And then part of your life could be expressing itself in a way where it may feel like something's holding you back. There could be some boundary issues, but there may be some tension, and sometimes it's inside of us where part of us wants to grow, part of us is holding us back. You may look around out externally and think external to you that this is going on too, but it's always going on inside just as much as it is outside. When these two come together, it's a more complex story. It's the idea of boundaries and rules coming together with a planet, that's more, it's a lighter energy and more like the law, but it's more like the light bulb going on. There are rules, there are boundaries that one shouldn't cross generally in life. We can even have rules and boundaries inside of us. And then Jupiter comes in and wants to create a sense of justice. And, when we think of the word justice, often we're thinking of things like the court system and that kind of justice. And that's true. We'll see that in the news. We may see it in our own lives where there's justice or an attempt to bring justice to issues of crossing boundaries, where boundaries probably shouldn't have been crossed. We're not Usually creating justice where somebody's had boundaries, unless it's been a cover-up of some kind, where the boundary has been to cordon off and fence in and cover up something. Maybe that's a boundary that needs to be brought down. But Jupiter attempts to bring justice to a situation is the way I'm seeing this. And it's a long process, whatever. The timeline's longer, but it starts, it's in motion. But in a daily life situation, we don't always have like this court thing going on. Like most of us, thank goodness, don't. So what could it mean in a personal life? Well, it's more conceptual, when I'm not working with one person's chart, but conceptually, it's as though I think a lot of you have had some long-term goals. I think most people do. And so a lot of you have been working hard and slowly and in a determined way to reach some kind of goal. And it's been in many ways kind of an uphill, even if you like it sometimes, even if it's a fun goal, it may feel like, it's just taking forever. And sometimes it feels challenging and you've gone through maybe some peaks and valleys with it, whatever it is in your life. And then Jupiter comes in a little bit like the sun and shines some light. And it's like somebody joining you on the journey. It's like somebody coming up beside you and helping you and making your journey lighter. That's the overall feeling of it. It definitely feels like help comes. And it just depends on what's going on in your life in terms of, like what that is for you. But another thing I was saying, I guess there are just some common themes here today. Another thing, and some messages I think I'm meant to convey to you guys. There's another saying that it goes, it's always darkest but just before dawn. And I think we're entering a time where this applies a lot to our lives in general and what's going on around us. If things seem to feel like sometimes they're spinning around and you don't know how it's going to end, and there's fear that there will be darkness, keep that phrase in mind. It's always darkest just before dawn, because I feel like something like that is unfolding in a larger way. Okay, let me see if there are any questions I can take. Yeah, okay, so Michelle says Jupiter in Capricorn equals growing pains. That's a really great way to look at it. Very good. So, which is like it's almost dark, it's darkest before dawn. But so before you get to the good, you have to go through the growing pains and what might feel like darkness. And it is about growth. Thank you for bringing that up. That's really good. And then Yasmin says, I wonder if Jupiter expands Saturn's lessons. Definitely. See, you guys are so good at this. You guys know. Let's see. Can you speak to Saturn opposing? Okay, so Mary, I hope I answered at least some of that. Nulifer says, transit Jupiter going to touch my natal North Node. Oh, yeah. So Jupiter over the North Node. So they're expanded lessons on what your particular purpose and soul path are. I wonder if you have a heightened sense, if Jupiter is going over your North Node, of why you're here on the planet. Why were you born at this particular time? What are you here to do? You're here to do something important. Mary says your dad is sick, doing all the caregiving. Yes. Yes, right. Yeah, boundaries. Yeah, so a lot of lessons about boundaries, I think. So let's move through the signs. I'm going to go ahead and start moving through the signs. So Aries, I suspect there's some big, big changes on the horizon with your career. There's some kind of big growth going on here. I think a lot of it's very bodes well for you financially. I do think a lot of Aries in general, one would tend to think of Aries as a leadership sign, but I certainly know a lot of Aries people who don't feel like leaders and they don't have as much confidence. And I think now more than ever, even if you're one of those Aries who just doesn't feel like a leader, doesn't feel like he or she has it in him or her to do anything because you're exhausted or maybe just got a lot going on, it's as though the universe is saying to you, yes, you are a leader and you're actually here right now to do some leadership. So how do you want to do it, Aries? How do you want to lead? In many ways, you're here right now, and you may have a hard time seeing this about yourself. I don't think Aries always sees him or herself this way because you're not, while you are thought of as a leader, Aries, you're not often thought of as a healer, somebody who's here to heal others or the planet. It's just not what we think of as your focus. Well, there are certainly many Aries doctors and healers in the world, but it's not what we typically associate with your sign. But right now, I think they're Aries who, whether you're a doctor or what we think of traditionally as a healer, you may not be that, but whatever it is you do, in some way, you're meant to help others to heal. You could be an accountant and help others heal their finances. You could be, I don't know, you could own a grocery store and help others heal by just bringing in good fruits and vegetables, a good quality food, or just present it in a beautiful way. It's healing. There's a way that you can help others heal just by being you and doing what you do. But there's this idea for the Aries that you are meant to lead and to help others heal. And so I would invite you to try to own that and to step into the shoes of that, because I know a lot of Aries, and I know they're like, I don't know, I don't want to be a leader. Or I don't see how I'm going to help people heal. Aries are very frank and direct, and people have said that to me, so I understand that it may seem like that to you, but yet I think the astrology is correct. And I think a lot of you are resisting what you know is true too, that you are meant to help others heal, and that you may just not want to because it feels like a lot. Like, how do I, as little old me, do that? If that's not what I set out to do or thought I was going to be doing at this point in my life, because you may be really young or you may be really old. And I have a lot of people here who are retired or not working. And it's like, how can I, little old me who's 70, how am I going to help others heal? Well, the astrology says you can't. So I would say you can too. All right, so let's move. I'm going to move on to Taurus. It'll just take me a minute to reset the chart. All right, Taurus. So Jupiter has been in your 8th house of finance, money, fear, intimacy, your life of intimacy, your world, how you perceive intimacy. So Jupiter's been hanging out there, kind of hidden, but undoubtedly bringing some degree of expansion to your finances. And again, I know there are people out there who say, no, I'm destitute, I'm poor, everything's bad. And I know that that can be true. I've had times in my life, if you knew my life story, where I've been like that, where it's felt like that for me. So I don't take it lightly. I'm in a different place now. I'm in a good place now, but, not always. When I was a little girl, my dad just totally left, and, we had nothing, no food. So I understand what it's like. And so even for the Taurus out there who says, no, nothing, I ask you to look a little more closely. What else has been going on for you? Can you see Jupiter's work in your eighth house? What happened with your finances and money? Beside the sort of story, like I'm poor, everything's going wrong. Let's look behind that. What did Jupiter change for you this year in your eighth house? I'm guessing a lot of you actually did see some improvement financially. Um, and certainly you were looking carefully at your finances, and money became a theme somehow. Sometimes it's because you're starting to invest. Sometimes you're just working really hard to get a grip on your taxes. Maybe you were in a divorce settlement or a court case, or you had an inheritance and you had to do um, maybe some help, as an executor of a will, or something like that was unfolding, or maybe the purchase and sale of property. So Taurus, just notice what went on for you this last year financially. I'm guessing most of you by now, by some point in November and early December, money is coming to you or has come to you. Now the shift is that Jupiter is going into your ninth house. It's joining, as we said, Venus and Saturn and Pluto and the South Node, which is its whole other story. I think we're going to have to do a reading just on the South Node because it's just a very distinct thing. But so it's a great year for you to travel. It's a great year for you to kind of break out of any cage you feel like you've been in. If you feel like you've been kind of tucked behind the scenes or forced to sit still when you'd rather move, or forced to not be able to move when you really feel like you'd like to move. And by move, it's not necessarily moving house. It could be that, but it's just to make a move, to break free, to get out and about and to see the world or whatever. It may have felt like you were kind of ready to do that all year, but you couldn't quite do it. So this is your year to do that. This is your year to break free. It's funny because you don't always associate Capricorn with breaking free and freedom and exploring the world, but that's where Capricorn is in your chart. So for you, maybe Capricorn does feel like that. You usually explore with a goal. You like to go places for a reason. There's some people who could throw a dart in a map and say, okay, I'm going there, but not you. Not you so much. So you like to go places with kind of a reason. You want to learn about something when you go somewhere. But sometimes you just want to enjoy yourself too. Taurus does love to enjoy the moment, to be in the moment. That's something you're actually good at and can show the rest of us how to do it. But a lot of you, no matter what your age, it's a year of expanded learning. And that could mean just a whole host of things. It's learning through travel, learning through publishing. When we write, because I'm a writer, often, even if we're trying to teach other people or express ourselves to others, often we're the ones who are growing the most when we write, even if we're trying to somehow help others and help them grow, which is something I actually do as a coach, but I'm the one who grows in that process. So some of you are doing, even if you're starting a blog or you're publishing a book and you're going on book tour, what one doesn't often expect in a situation like that is that's your whole life is going to change as a result, not just because of money, not just because of any potential fame for some of you, but because of what you go through in that process. You grow as a person, or you have the opportunity to. But there's growth, there's possible publishing theme or publicly speaking, being out, being seen, becoming more visible to the world. Some of you, it could be a big push for a marketing campaign. For some of you, there is the theme of a court case. What I would say about this is I hate to predict, how a court case is going to go. You do start with Venus here, but because of many other things going on in the chart, because you have Pluto and Saturn here, we just really can't say which way it's going to go. And also you have Uranus in your sign. So I would say if you have a big court case, you just play by the book. With Pluto and Saturn, you have to. You play by the book. You can't cut corners. You've got to do everything the right way because it'll be so visible if you don't. Everybody will see it. So you've got to be elevated to your best self if you're in the spotlight, because everybody's going to see it, whatever it is you're doing. Whether you're on book tour, whether you're traveling, whether you're teaching or at school as a student, you've got to play by the book. You can't cheat or look at someone else's homework. You can, but you're more likely to be seen. So this is a time for many strong ethics to really play by the book and be ethical right now, because otherwise the consequences could be just very public. But I would say on the whole for you guys, money looks good. It seems like a year of really nice expansion for you, and you just learn so much. And whatever the process is for you this year, you learn so much. Let me see if you guys have any questions here. Tina, yeah, no shortcuts. Let's see. Blessed says, Taurus ascendant also taking a lot of astrology classes and webinars. Good. Yeah, so perfect. And working more. Yeah, I can see that. Received an inheritance. Yep. So this person here is kind of reflecting back to us the experience of Taurus, and it's much of what we've talked about. Hi, Jessica. I see yours. So you must be a Capricorn. We'll talk about that when we get there. Okay. I just wanted to check in with you guys because I was very tuned into the chart. So Taurus, I think it's going to be quite a nice year, and there's more movement metaphorically and physically this year, whereas a lot of you may have felt kind of, maybe good stuff was happening, but you felt kind of stuck in certain ways, like you couldn't do everything you wanted to. That's the feeling I get when I look at it. All right, now let's move on to Gemini. So I want to invite you guys, while I'm fixing the chart here, to come over to my membership lounge, where I do more in-depth readings like what I'm doing now. And you get your readings before everybody else. And you get the opportunity to be chosen for a free reading each month. All the members get put in a pile, and I just randomly select somebody for a reading. So come join us in the membership lounge. We really want to see you there. Okay. Okay, there we go, Gemini. Okay, so what Taurus experienced last year is what you're experiencing this year, except that Taurus did not have Pluto and Saturn in the 8th house, which is what you have. You've had Pluto here since 2009. You've had Saturn here for a couple of years, and now Jupiter comes in. So what might that mean for you? Well, Jupiter, let's take a look at where Jupiter was for Gemini. It was in your 7th house. That's where Sagittarius hits your chart. So Jupiter was expanding all things partnership related. So it's important to remember that this is not just about love relationships and partnerships. It's also about your work partnerships and even friends who are like partners. And I don't mean like not romantically, but just people who you rely on and you're working together toward a common goal or something. But there was a big expansion in this idea of partnership. Certainly, if you're in sales, this was a great year to improve your client base. So it could have been very beneficial financially. And now with Jupiter going into your 8th house, if that was the case for you in terms of business and expanding partnerships and client relationships, now with Jupiter going into the 8th, you'll get more money. The money will really come to fruition here. Certainly in the 8th house, the way your 8th house is set up with Pluto having been here, where at one time over the last decade, you may have felt like your financial world was really rocked in a bad way. And you've been slowly rebuilding. And now with Jupiter, there's a big payoff here for many of you. So keep at it, whatever it is you're doing, if you've been trying to rebuild and make yourself feel safe and to create a cushion for yourself, a plan, so that you'll feel like your finances are in good order. I think you really get the payoff. A lot of you are likely to get a big job or a big commission coming up in December where there is more money. It's a great time in your life to start saving and investing. There may be an inheritance for some of you. There may be, for some of you, if the expansion in your partnership arena last year meant that a relationship that was in a bad place kind of blew up, some of you may be dividing the money, but somehow end up with actually in a good place with that. Divorce can be devastating to a person's finances, but somehow you may end up, given the situation, with a cushion or some better than one would have expected, or you may be the one who's holding the longer stick. When people draw sticks, some people get the short stick. That means they got the bad deal. You're more likely to get the better deal here in many situations. So you'll actually be okay if you can trust that. It may take all year for you to see it. There may be a big culmination, at various times through this year where you're not sure how things are going to go. But as long as you're not cutting corners, obeying the law, not doing anything shady, because with Jupiter coming in and Pluto and Saturn here, you really want to play on the high side of things. So as long as you're above board and keeping your game that way, you should be okay. Even if there is a court case around money, you should be okay. But I would think, when people go to court and usually you're not coming away the total winner, because even if you win money, you've gone through it, the agony of going to court and paid maybe lots of court fees, court costs and attorney fees. So and you can apply, even if you're not in a court situation, you can apply this to life and just think of it this way metaphorically. Sometimes it feels like I didn't win. I didn't get everything. And you can look at it that way, but that's not a fun way to look at things. It hurts more to look at things that way. I would encourage you and invite you to see where you were actually blessed over the last year, even if some bad stuff was going on, where you've been blessed. And this year, I invite you with your money situation to see where blessings are occurring. There may be kind of this like roller coaster ride for you this year financially for some. Not necessarily for all. It could just be a slow building and like a blossoming of like your money really like your ship coming in for some of you. But if not, it could feel like a roller coaster before it feels like the ship coming in feeling. I do think by the end of this year, you're probably going to sell a property and get money from it. All right, let's move on. All right, Cancer. Let me see if anybody's got any questions. So Tanya's saying, I have Jupiter in Capricorn in the 10th natally. It's debilitated. Okay. So Tanya, I would say, how can you work with that? How can you work with Jupiter and Capricorn in the 10th so that it benefits you? Because I know in classical astrology, there's this idea of things being debilitated or exalted. But my own belief is that these are like you're given a certain set of tools. Some of them are rusty and don't work as well, and some are like really awesome. And another person might have like your rusty tool, the other person might have been given that same tool, but it's like perfect and shiny and works perfectly. So Capricorn in the 10th is actually a really good placement. Jupiter in there, if you're saying it's debilitated because of its placement, as you grow older, as you age, there's this opportunity to learn how to take some like a lump of coal and turn it into gold. There's this opportunity to become an alchemist with your own situation, with the rusty tools. How do you take the rusty tool you were given at birth, if you see it that way, and how do you turn it into your most awesome tool? How do you turn it into gold? So I would ask you to look at it, to try to challenge yourself to think of it that way. Like, how can I be an alchemist in my own life and change something that seems like a curse or a debilitation into something that really, really works for me? All right, Cancer. And again, you guys, come join us in the membership lounge. I'll put the link below. I don't think I did it before I started this live stream, but I'll put it in. Come over to leesears.com and join us in the membership lounge. I do the readings there first. They're more in depth like this, and you have more readings. I do weekly readings, and also you'll have the opportunity to be a part of a pool where I'll draw each month and do a free reading. And so you'll be in line for that too. So come join me there. Cancer. So again, if you listen to, it's slightly different because even though Gemini had Jupiter here last year, it won't be quite the same for you because Gemini wasn't hosting Pluto and Saturn in the 7th house. But in terms of, Jupiter hitting the 7th house, it does expand relationship themes. So that includes getting clients and partners in business, or where there's a big focus on your clients or your partners. That could be true. It could be true in your love life that there's a big focus there. So it expands this area of your chart where you have a significant other. If you have a good relationship, it expands that, and maybe you get engaged or married, or you just, I don't know, maybe renew your vows or something. Or maybe your partner, if you've been together a long time, maybe something's really going on for them. Like, what's going on for them? For some, it could be something really like a simple interpretation where, your partner is going to law school or becoming an attorney or something, or becoming a published author, or traveling a lot. So something could be going on with your partner where there's a lot of focus on them. And you have to somehow balance that with the North Node in your sign to make sure this is a balanced relationship and that everybody's getting equal treatment here. So there may be an issue like that going on, even if you're in a great relationship. If the relationship has some struggles, this will expand, and you'll get your opportunity to work with it using the gift of Jupiter, which could bring an advisor or some guidance from elsewhere, maybe going into therapy together. So you kind of, if you're in a troubled relationship, you have a lot of opportunity here to figure it out, because Jupiter does assist with that. At the end of the day, with Pluto and Saturn, and depending on the situation, it could be for some of you that a relationship that's just really not going to work is going to fall apart. And if that's you, don't be scared if you're in a good relationship, or just a neutral relationship. Don't be scared of it. Jupiter generally brings the good. And if it does bring about the end of a relationship, it's the best thing. It really is. But I would say if you're single, there's a real opportunity here, Cancer, to work with this energy if your goal is to not be single, to try to work with this energy in a way that maybe brings someone in. It's a longer discussion, but you have an opportunity. You could look at it like an opportunity. It's not a sure thing that Jupiter just like helicopters over your house and delivers, somebody to your door. But there sure is a lot of opportunity here. And I would say it definitely lightens your space in the 7th house. It lightens the energy here. So if you've had fears about getting into a relationship, if it just seems hard to be in a relationship, Jupiter can come in and assist. And it could be in the form of getting therapy, or both of you reading the same self-help book and talking it through. I don't know how it will come in, but it comes in kind of like a fresh breeze into a troubled situation. If it's a good situation, it could just be any number of things, but it could show up in the form of just a lot going on for your partner, and you may just need to find a way to balance that, I would say. Okay, so let's move on to Leo. And again, guys, come join me in the membership lounge over at leasears.com, where I do more in-depth readings and do them there first before I come onto YouTube. When you join the membership lounge, you have the opportunity to be selected for a free reading. Each month, I'll pick among the members. Okay, so Leo. Leo, you have Jupiter entering your 6th house of your daily experience. So in your daily experience, you wake up, your eyes open, you get out of bed, and you immediately are aware of your body. This is where you notice aches and pains and how you feel physically, mentally. So it's kind of where your health is and how you notice your health, how you deal with your health, get help, go to the doctor. It's that part of life, but it's everything else in your daily experience. Where do you go? Who do you see? If you work, what kind of work do you do? Who do you see at work? It's your daily, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed experience. So with Pluto and Saturn here already, Leo, it could be that something about your daily experience has been challenging. It started in 2009. And so it could be like a heaviness from a situation that occurred over the last decade or more. If you've had sick relatives or people close to you, if you've had issues with your pets where they've been sick, but something about the last 10 years, there may have been good moments and good things going on, because I suspect there were, but there may also have been some severe challenges to your mental health. And it's not going to be the same for each Leo, but I'm listing the possibilities, mental health. So keeping your spirits up, your physical health, you may have been feeling like there's some kind of challenge here too. It doesn't mean anything super serious was going on, but there could be some growing concern around something. And again, it doesn't have, for some people it's going to be bigger, some people smaller concern, but you may feel like there's some health issues that you're dealing with. Some of them could be minor and elective, like elective surgery or, getting braces or something. It just depends on the person. But with Jupiter coming in, there's more money to take care of yourself. You may get a better health plan. Definitely, if you want to work for your keep, you want to work to earn more money, certainly starting the transit of Jupiter in this area with Venus here and Pluto and Saturn, and the way everything else is lined up when it enters. I think a lot of you might be starting jobs soon, a big job where you make more money and it's a big change for you. It's possibly even very unexpected. So there's a lot of opportunity here for the Leo in terms of work. And it may be kind of an electric, like, wow, my life just totally changed. But I think there's some money there for you. But it might feel also like you're working really hard. You felt like that for a while with Pluto and Saturn here, but with Jupiter, there's more of a payoff. And the electric quality from the way it's working with Uranus, it can catapult you, whereas some of you may have been in the experience like you just work and work and work and you're just down in the weeds working and your schedule is hindered by that. And you may just feel like all you do is work. Some of you, something about the combination of Jupiter with Uranus here may allow you to bypass and shortcut your way to a bigger situation, a better situation for you with work. And this could be like a company you own. It could be a place you work. It doesn't matter what the work is, or, whether it's your own, like I said, your own thing that you do, or, getting a job somewhere else. That doesn't matter, but something's really happening quickly for you, almost seemingly overnight, even though it's very clear with Pluto and Saturn here, you've been working diligently and maybe feeling like, oh man, my life is just work. Some of you just feel like that. So, and then there's, I mentioned pets, there's health, there's work, your schedule. What else? It's also this idea of more people in your world daily. Whereas before with Pluto and Saturn here, especially with the advent of Saturn moving in, some of you may have felt like kind of cut off, like you just work alone. And Jupiter coming in may change that, so you don't feel that way quite so much. All right. Let's see, any more questions? Hi, Bree. Sherry, Leo ascendant, lost 2 pets, diagnosed with chronic disorder since 2010. Yeah, and sorry about that, Sherry. But that's a good example. And I would say this year is a time when you can turn some things around. Maybe you find a better way to deal with a chronic disorder. Maybe you're ready to take on, bringing another pet into your world. If you do, it's going to be kind of lucky for you. Have a lucky feeling in some way. And we never luck the way the yes, and other opportunities in work. And luck, sometimes luck is wrapped in a package that we don't think is luck. So remember that too, that something that actually is luck can sometimes be wrapped in wrapping paper that says unlucky, unlucky, unlucky. That is really very lucky. So let's move on to Virgo. Remember, I'm just telling people because I know some people are kind of hopping on at different times. I have moved and changed my website, so I'm no longer at freshastrology.com. I'm at leesears.com, and there I have this thing called a membership lounge where you can join. It's like a private YouTube. basically. And there, I'm going there and doing my readings there first before they go onto YouTube. And they're different readings, they're more in depth. And I do weekly readings, there's a newsletter. Um, I do some astrology instruction. I've already got at least half of 2020 up there right now. And if you're a member in the membership lounge, then each month I draw from the membership pool a name and I'll do a free reading. So come join us there at leesears.com. And I'll put the link below. I don't think I did it yet. So now we're moving on to Virgo. So Virgo, you had Jupiter in your fourth house. That's the area of home and family. So there maybe were some big family issues over the last year where you were really focused on family. And you somehow improved your living situation. There was an improvement of some sort. Maybe you decorated, maybe you had more people staying with you and it felt good, or maybe you went to go live, or you may even, with Jupiter there, have gone back and forth between homes, or you got a vacation house. It just depends on, your economic, capability, but something fortuitous was going on with your family, even though throughout the year, it may not always have felt like that. It may have felt like there were challenges in a family and challenges with your living situation. But in many ways, many Virgos improved their living situations, even if it was just by decorating. Or people coming to visit and having lots of people come in, so it just feels festive. Improvement can come in many shapes and sizes. Now you have Jupiter going into the fifth house. It's joining Venus temporarily will be there, but it's remarkable that when Jupiter goes into the fifth house, Venus is there. That says something about the transit itself over the year of 2020. And you've also been hosting Pluto and Saturn here. If you have children, this has presented some challenges in the world of children, maybe some hard things going on. Jupiter coming in certainly helps. Venus being here certainly helps. Because you've been dealing with Pluto energy here, whatever it's been doing, you've been learning how to adapt and cope and work with it there. If you're a creative person, you've certainly had some growth of some kind here. You've completely, because Pluto completely transforms things, and it does it on a very deep level. So whatever kind of creative person you were in 2009 and before, what you're going to create and how you're going to create and the motivation for creating is all totally different, completely different. So the product you would have come up with as a creative person in 2006, 7, 8, 9, and what you would create today, night and day, totally different. And because you've been learning the lessons of Pluto, and you've just evolved on a very deep level here. So there's probably more of a seriousness to what you would create at this point in time. Not that you were frivolous before. Virgos are not known for frivolity, but there's probably more profound, something more profound about what you would create now. If this is about your love life, you've been hosting Pluto and Saturn here. So this would have created some hardship, some darkness for you somewhere over the last 10 plus years. There would have been maybe a feeling of hardship or darkness here at times. And just like with learning to work with it as a creative person or with your children, you've been learning how to deal with this energy here and learning how to work with it and learning many lessons. And so now with Jupiter coming in, there is an opportunity here, especially with Venus, that love could surprisingly flow into this part of your world again. If you're in a long-term relationship, maybe it's just a revitalization of romance in your life. Just bringing it back in. Maybe the romance has been hard to feel like you have time for romance, or there's just some challenge here, even if you've been married for all these years. There's been a challenge of some sort. Maybe it was with a child. But something was challenging your ability to feel lighthearted and have romance, kind of the way we think of romance being a little lighter. That's somehow been hard. So now with Jupiter and Venus here together, it seems to herald a time when a lighter energy is coming in quite unexpectedly, especially for those who are entering into a second long-term relationship. So if you're divorced or you ended a relationship that was more long-term. So either you were married, or if it was just a long-term dating relationship, it had to have been over 3 to 5 years for it even to start to count as a long-term relationship, and the way I'm looking at it. So mostly I'm thinking of people who've been married, divorced, and this is a second go round. Quite unexpectedly, really out of thin air, because of Uranus up in the ninth and the North Node in the 11th. There are many indicators here. Virgos haven't had the best luck with love. And you've also had Neptune in the 7th house. So there's some stuff here that really could turn things around. Maybe not overnight. If you go way back, I've now been talking for quite a long time, but at the very beginning, I started with somehow this quote from a poem came into my mind about the fog comes in on little cat feet, because that seemed to be the nature of Jupiter and Sagittarius unexpectedly over the last year, where Sagittarius, which seems big and bold, and Jupiter, which seems big and bold, together they seem to be a little more subtle, still doing really interesting, good things, but sometimes more invisibly than you would think. And so it could, I never would have predicted that with Sagittarius, that it would have been, quiet movement of the two together. But so I don't know if this will be like more bold, like wham, something really changes in your artistic life. Maybe you publish a book, or you suddenly get the $1 million idea for a business, or because your creative life can also include, like a product that you sell, any product. It doesn't have to be high art. It could be a business you start. But suddenly, and because of the relationship to Uranus in the 9th house, you might have lots of sales or exposure for what you do. That's possible. And with kids, some big moments of change for them, maybe in relationship to higher education in some cases. Some people may find suddenly they're adopting, and that's a sudden decision, a sudden availability for you to be able to adopt. So I think for you guys, the 5th house can be a wonderful place. It's supposed to be the area of the chart that's fun. And it's been hard for Virgos. I'm laughing with you, not laughing at you ever. I've got a child with a Virgo moon, and, I understand Virgos quite well, but the 5th house has not been easy. So I think there's some unexpected change here. So have heart. I think some of you, maybe with Jupiter going across the base point of your chart, it also helps you lighten your mood a little, even as it expanded stuff in your family. It's also kind of helped keep you afloat. So hang in there. I think there'll be some interesting change. Okay, Libra. You're having sort of what Virgo had last year. You got Jupiter entering the 4th house of home and family. This could show someone moving internationally. It definitely shows a move. This is a year in which you will move. And it will be a bigger transition. It will be an improvement in many ways. It should be. There's some challenges here. You have had some challenges in your family life over the past 10 years. But as we all have, we've been adapting to Pluto and what it's been doing and wherever it is in our chart. For you guys, it's in the area of family and home. Something about your home life and your family life has had its ups and downs and maybe changed dramatically. So what your family looked like 10 years ago is not the way it looks now. And what your housing situation looked like 10 years ago, it's going to look, if it doesn't look radically different right now, it will. There's some big changes. There's some big financial changes. So it could be you sell a house, you get a lot of money from it, and you go do something else with it, or you have money and then you invest it in a property. I don't know. But there's some financial changes going on for Libras and some emotional changes going on for Libras. I'm trying to think how to characterize this. You have been going through emotional changes, but they've been slower, more hidden. And now everything's much faster. Things are happening very quickly. So I fully expect to see you guys moving or buying property or investing and changing your family situation over the next year somehow, making some changes, or changes just happening, with family members. But it's an exciting time. Some of you will be moving because of work. Some of you will be moving because of health. And that could just be mental health. Like an example would be like if I'm speaking as a Libra, I can no longer live in this rainy climate. I need to go move where the sun is. Or I can no longer live in this cold climate. I need to go live in a warmer climate. Or or maybe some of you, I can no longer live in this warm, sunny climate. I need to go where it's dark and cold. But you may find that, and that's kind of your health. It's your wellness, your well-being. So some of you may move due to well-being, to improve your well-being and health. Yeah. Let me see if there are any questions, if there are any Libras on here. Yes, Jules, I did Virgo. Once I finish this, it'll be a recording. You can go back and find it. Let's see. Yeah, any Libras with questions? I'll come back and look again. All right, so we're going to move forward to Scorpio. And again, while I'm doing this, my website, just so you know, is no longer freshastrology.com. It's now leesears.com. I'll put the link below, but it's Lee Sears, like the store, SEARS.com. And I have a membership lounge there where it's basically a private YouTube where I do these in-depth readings there first and before they go to YouTube. And they're different. I do different ones on YouTube. And I do weekly readings. There's a newsletter. And I also, from among the members, I'll pull a name each month and do a private, or not private, it's not private actually, but a free reading for a member. So come join us there. Okay, so here we have Scorpio. Scorpio, you've had Jupiter in your second house, which has been very good if you're in the work world. It should have brought probably more work for you, but also more money. The ability to exchange your effort and labor for reward has improved this year. So your hard work pays off more than before. You're in a whole new era with your earnings, most of you. Did I say Libra? I'm in Scorpio. For some reason, I may have said the word Libra. Maybe I didn't. Maybe it's just all up here. But we're talking to Scorpio. So Scorpio, you have had a great year in terms of the ability to earn, or should have. Now, some of you, especially if you're not working, may have felt like you're just spending, lots of spending. And it may have been alarming. So it should be a relief for some of you to know that Jupiter is leaving the second house. And even if it brought more money to you, it's not leaving you entirely. It's not like the luck goes away. It just moves on. It's moving into the third house, which is, it could just mean so many different things. Sometimes because it's leaving the second house, it may herald a bit of a job shift or change. So for some of you, you may experience new duties, or some kind of shift in what you do for work. If there was a lot of just a lot of spending, that will be the most noticeable immediate change. Is you just won't be spending nearly as much as you were last year. You won't feel like money's just going out the window. This is kind of a nice place for Jupiter if you like to write or speak publicly. If you want to have a platform from which you can communicate and connect with the world, this is a wonderful place to have it. So your ability to communicate, get the message out, get the word out, reach others, publish, is really nice. So go for it. Don't waste a second of this transit if you really would like to write or speak publicly or express yourself, or teach. If you want to teach, don't waste a second. Start putting together your teaching program or applying for a job. You would make a great teacher. If you want to start a learning program and sign up for some kind of program where you're learning, this is not as much a university kind of program where you're getting a higher degree. This is more, could be a certification, like if you want to become a paralegal, or it does show maybe writing work or legal work, definitely using language. So it could involve language skills, learning a foreign language, teaching a foreign language. This area, for some reason, and we've talked about this, Scorpio, for some reason, the third house has been really challenging for you. How you communicate and learn has just been, I would almost just have to hear individual stories. I know people from all parts of the zodiac, and I can kind of see like different themes, but it's very unique to each Scorpio what this means. But there have been some problems with communication and feeling like you're connecting to people. And even within yourself, like communicating with yourself, there's some kind of evolution you're going through with this, and even the way you think, has been changing a lot. It's like your brain is rewiring over the last 10 years, really rewiring. And because of that, you see the world in a whole new way, and it'll start to come out like the way you talk and the way you communicate with others. It may be very internal, the way it's been going on, but it'll start to be, especially with Jupiter coming in, more obvious, the kind of transformation, deep transformation you've been going through. It's a more subtle place to have Jupiter, quite frankly. Things are going on for sure. You're using your language skills. You're learning a lot, maybe teaching people. But it's a little more subtle here. So it doesn't mean that a lot of powerful things aren't happening, but it's more subtle. That's all I can say. But don't waste a second. If you've been really wanting to take a program, get a certification, go for it. This is your year to really do it. Knock it out. And it's going to be lucky for you. You'll knock it out of the park. Whatever it is, it'll really benefit you moving forward. So go for it. So now we're moving to Sagittarius. Well, I'm changing. I'll just say for people who are hopping on and haven't been here, I have a new website. It's leesears.com. I'm no longer at freshastrology.com, but leesears.com. And there I have a membership lounge you can join where I do all my readings there first. They're more in depth. I have some basic astrology lessons that I'll keep adding to that library. Members get randomly selected for free readings. So come join us there. All right, so Sagittarius. So you've had Jupiter in your sign and you may be worried, what happens when it leaves my sign? But it goes on to your second house, which is a great place to have Jupiter, especially if you're working. When you're working and in the work world and Jupiter goes into your second house, it's a time when you're offered more money. You get a higher paying position often. Especially if this is over the last 10 years, you feel like you've just been working kind of fruitlessly, like to know, like some of you may feel like I've got nothing to show or very little to show for all my hard work over the last 10 years. Like I didn't get significant raises. Maybe you lost jobs or you went from job to job, but you may feel like you've been working. Maybe you see the promise of payoff. Maybe things have started to turn around, but some of you may have felt, over the course of 10 years that you just very little reward for all the work you put in, and even felt kind of like, what's the point? What's the point of working? Now you have Jupiter and Venus here as Jupiter kicks off its year-long season in your second house, and the reward should come pretty quickly. You may get a raise, you may get a new job, but the money's coming in, and it should be a very good year financially. And as I said earlier, this has been a very long reading because I've been going through all the signs, and then I started more generally. And by the way, you're watching a live, even if you watch this later after the live reading's over, if I start talking to people, this was a live streaming event. And if you're here now, you're watching a live streaming event, so you can ask me questions and I'll jump over and take a look. But I think this is going to be a great year for you. It's wonderful. It really is wonderful to have Jupiter here. And I think because of the way things are lined up here, I just think a lot of you are moving, will have moved. I think the money will help you move. If you want to get a new place, the money that's coming in this year will help you do that. So some dreams are coming true, or some goals are able to be accomplished because of whatever is turning around in terms of your money growth. Because you've already been working hard, but here comes the money, is what this says. So I'm excited for you personally. I think it's going to be a good year. And if you're not currently working, it may just be the promise of a career you could have. Maybe you see where some of you may not have seen how could the money possibly come? I don't even know what I should be doing for a living. I don't know where I belong. I don't even know where to start. Something happens here to change that. And It's going to be very unique for each one of you, but something changes here. And it's exciting. I think it's a very exciting change. So, yay. Let me jump over and see if there are any questions. Okay. Yes, it takes Jupiter a year to go through a house. Yeah, thank you for answering that, Sherry. Okay. All right, moving on. So now we're going to look at Capricorn. You're kind of the it girl or boy right now. And there's some kind of lesson we're all supposed to learn from Capricorn. Maybe Capricorn people around us, but also from our Capricorn selves. Because even if you're not a sun or a moon or a rising Capricorn, you have Capricorn in your chart. That's why we can look at where, Pluto and Saturn are. It's in your chart. We are the whole zodiac, but we just more naturally from birth express certain parts of it more naturally. They come to the front and people see our Leo or whatever we are. And that's more like an easier thing for us to express and work through Leo or work through Cancer. And maybe it doesn't come as naturally to express our Capricorn bits, the part of us that's Capricorn, but we're all Capricorn and we're all everything in the zodiac. So there's something inside of you, wherever this hits your chart, this Capricorn part of you is trying to express itself and make itself known and work some magic in your life. Because it's been hard here. It's been hard for everybody here. There have been some challenges. And it doesn't mean that everybody's suffering. I don't think that's true at all. But I do think people have been growing here and really pushing themselves here wherever Capricorn is. You've had to. So for Capricorn, you've been pushing yourself really hard because you've had to or felt you had to, or it was really important for you to. But you've been pushing yourself and growing. Like the you that existed 10 years ago is not even like recognizable to you now, and who you are now. You never could have seen back then where you would be now. Like it just is unimaginable. Like you in 2006, 7, 8, your ability to see where you are now, not even possible. So you've come a long way. And I think you've had to build a lot of internal strength over the last 10 years. And now you're quite strong, most of you. I think most of you are quite strong. Because this is definitely the transit. If it, doesn't break you, it's going to make you. And so I think a lot of you with Jupiter coming in are really coming into kind of a golden era in your life. Now, it may not be true for all of you, and would have to speak more offline about that, if you wanted to, come into the membership lounge and have a lengthier conversation there. Or I don't do as many private readings unless you've already had a reading with me. But you should get a private reading if you're really struggling still as a Capricorn and feeling like you haven't grown or you're still being crushed by Pluto and Saturn. It's more likely for most of you to be feeling like you've really grown tremendously and grown much stronger. And now with Jupiter coming in, there's just this idea of harvest and benefiting now, and a lightness, like where maybe you've been self-driven, and kind of more this driven quality that has a hard edge to it. Maybe now Jupiter comes in with Venus, no less, and softens and makes life maybe a little easier. You probably deserve that. I think a lot of you deserve this feeling of possible ease and expansion and love and softening here. Maybe being able to take it easy occasionally. There's some kind of very strong relationship between you, Capricorn, and all the stuff coming on with Jupiter and everything else in your sign. There's some kind of really strong line to your fifth house where, that's where you should be having fun. It's the message from the fifth house is have fun, create, be free, be light, be happy, be joyful, explore, be romantic, stop and smell the roses and the daisies and everything. So maybe there's a message here just to have fun, or to at least sometimes have fun, that you don't have to be as driven all the time. So there could be a sense of lightness and a sense of freedom that comes as a result of whatever changes are going on that you've created because you've worked hard. You've worked hard. So yay, Capricorn. And we're all learning, everyone's got this in their chart somewhere, even if you're not a Capricorn, you've come through it too, and you've been learning too. And there's some help potentially coming in for you. All right, now let's move on to Aquarius. Okay, so Aquarius, we talked about this. I don't know if it was here or in the membership lounge, but I know we've talked about it. That I think that we did do some conversation here around it in terms of what's it been like to be an Aquarius over the last 10 years. You've been hosting Pluto and Saturn. You're the only one with this experience in your 12th house. So there's been a lot of growth, hard growth internally, and hard growth in terms of your mental landscape, your emotional landscape, your relationship to spirit or religion has been challenged, or you've been growing there, but through some deep, deep transformation that isn't always fun and games. So I just want to honor that. I know not all of you feel, some of you may feel like, whoa, it's been really hard. And some of you may be like, it's been, just have a slightly different attitude or way of framing. And then people do have different circumstances. But it can't have been all easy, and I just want to say that just to validate. So now with Jupiter and Venus here, you're entering a new era. I wonder if some of you have a project that you're working on behind the scenes that you really love, like working on a book, working on a business idea, some kind of project that you're pushing along behind the scenes that feels really yummy to you, enlightens your world, and improves your world experience inside yourself emotionally, mentally. So there's something really fun going on this year, or the potential for it. There's definitely a benefit this year to you taking adequate and ample time for yourself, to get away, to be by yourself, to spend time with yourself, or maybe a significant other, somebody special to you. Some of you may have somebody special who you need to somehow see on little trips. Maybe they don't live close to you, or somebody you can just travel with, somebody who's lightening your mood, improving your world experience internally, your internal world. And you go on little trips, or maybe it just feels more like a private thing somehow. But it could also be something you're working on behind the scenes that you just love to do. So it's exciting for you guys. And a lot of you are going to be moving. You already have moved, some of you, but you're going to be moving again, or going between two homes, or just traveling a lot, where maybe you feel like there is no home. I just travel all the time and there is no home. Okay, so I think given what it must have been like, I don't know, I didn't have the experience, but to have Saturn and Pluto in your 12th house, I think this year will feel much better. for most of you. All right, moving on to Pisces. Again, if you just jumped in, I have a new website. I'm no longer at freshastrology.com, but at leastsears.com. There I have a membership lounge where it's like a private YouTube space. I do the readings there first. They're more in depth. I do some astrology instruction additionally, and I do weekly readings, and members of the membership lounge get randomly selected for each month. They have the opportunity at least to be randomly selected for a free reading. So come join us there. Okay, so Pisces. Let me come over real quick and see if there are any questions that I can answer. So someone asked which degree of Capricorn will be affected the most by Jupiter. Well, it would have to be the final degrees, like 2022 onward, I would say. But really, all Jupiter's hitting all the degrees. So all the degrees in Capricorn get benefit of Jupiter passing through. But certainly the last 10 degrees of Capricorn are where the action is. Hi guys, it's good to see you all here. Somebody says Bree says my son is Aquarius, and it's your moon. He is my heart. What a heavy ride it's been with us. Yay. Well, I'm glad it's come out with love. But yeah, heavy, that word heavy really fits. Yeah. All right, let's move on to Pisces. So Pisces, you have got all this Capricorn stuff, including now Jupiter's movement from Sagittarius into Capricorn going on in your 11th house. So Jupiter's been over the last year in the area of the 10th house of career. So it's expanded everything happening there. It will have meant probably a job change for many of you of some sort, maybe moving from company to company or starting your own company or getting a raise or promotion. Generally speaking, Jupiter brings a lot of elevation and luck, moving you up in your career. It's like a hot air balloon, it moves you up, generally speaking. Now, it also expands things. So if you were in a company, this is just an example of things that I've seen happen. Like if you were in a company that was not such a great place or they were experiencing problems, Jupiter would have expanded that so much so that maybe the company collapsed or they had layoffs and then you left. But it was lucky because, first of all, it was a crappy company. That's why Jupiter was expanding bad stuff. So it was good if Jupiter knocked you out of a position and into a new position. It will have been a lucky change. It's maybe something you needed to be kind of, kicked out of so that you would go to a better place. Might not be an actual place, but something better was meant for you in your career is what was going on last year. And some of you, it felt like this awesome thing. Some of you may have gone through some turmoil before getting there. Now, as Jupiter goes into the 11th house, a lot of you will find that people in high places notice you. You get recognition. People suddenly are all about you. And you may be it girl or boy, wherever you are. I don't mean to say little girl and little boy, but there's the saying, the it girl. So I'm just borrowing from that. But you're the it person. And a lot of you will find your popularity expanded this year. Whereas up to a certain point last year, you may have felt almost like, even if you've always been popular, you may have felt like you were questioning that, or you were seeing a change in your social circle that wasn't as promising, or that you had some losses in friendships or in your social world somehow. And the future at some point last year may have or before last year, may have narrowed, and you may have wondered what kind of future you indeed have or would have. And now it's going to look very bright for many of you. It may be very dramatic, starting in December, like, wow, my future really looks good suddenly. It may be quite suddenly, but it could, and this could have come with a job change, or if you have your own company, maybe a product does really well, or your marketing, suddenly hits. But something is really expanding for you this year, and it really makes your future open up in a new way. Whereas many of you, your future you had a hard time seeing it being good. You probably, being a Pisces, being the dreamer and always wanting to see, the fuzzy kitten rainbow version of things. Even you have had some even private moments of doubt and concern about what lay ahead, because there were some challenges, some kind of challenge there. Now, I think the future is looking, as of December and through this next year, much brighter. And you see where your opportunity is. You see more about where you're going. Your social life could improve. And I think it'll feel like a good year. Just trying to think, what else can we add here? Something about this change, it does seem like it's related to a shift in what you do for a living, possibly in how you earn money. It seems like you may have to, electronics are definitely indicated. Of course, that almost seems silly to say, because now all of us, electronics are so important. Computers, the internet, our phones, even though they're battery powered, they're also, we have to charge them. They are electronic. And so it seems silly to say that would be more of a focus for you, because it seems like it's a focus for all of us, but it is. So something about the world of computers, the internet, communications, and communications is a broad brushstroke. It doesn't mean you're a communications major and you write, communications pieces, although it could, but the world of communications can involve phones, smartphones, the world of 5G, AI, any kind of technology that assists communications can be heavily featured for many of you. If you're an artist and you're more kind of, you live off in the woods in a cabin somewhere, you may be thinking, well, that's not. But I think even people who try to live off the grid, maybe you're living in a mobile structure or something with wheels where you move around, or you have a satellite dish, or you may still be using technology even if you're kind of off the grid. And don't think of yourself as using technology. I think there's some change here where you open up to the world using technology. And I don't know, it's going to depend on the person how that comes about. Let's see. So it'll just be very interesting, Pisces, but I think you'll see a rosier vision of your future. It's your norm to see things that way, but the last decade's been a little challenging. And it's been hard for you because it's come into a place, this 11th house, where normally you see, the fuzzy kitten rainbow version of reality. That's how you're born, except over the last 10 years, Pluto and Saturn came to the party and kind of party crashed and changed that and challenged you to be able to see the world the way you'd really like to. Now, I think you get some help and you feel like your old self again in many ways. Let's see if anybody's here who has, yes, Saturn in the 11th, definitely. Yeah, 2020, I know some people are scared. I'm excited. Personally, I'm excited. Like, bring it on. Let's see what happens. I think it's exciting. It is a sea change, meaning, if you're not familiar with that phrase, it means things go from here to here. It's a big change year for everybody. We can't help but change. Those of us who felt stagnant, you can't help but have some big changes coming on. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. And yeah, it's just a pleasure. I love my audience. I think you guys are great. And have a good rest of your evening. Take care.